The Calder Decree. The Alleyway Kiss. Delia Tempera didn't plan on kissing a stranger tonight. All she planned was to finish her late shift at the Millhouse Diner, drag 2 sticky trash bags down the cracked back steps of her run-down building in Wren Row, and maybe collapse into her law books until sleep won. But the city, Valoris, never cared for her plans. The alley behind her building smelled like wet pavement and overfilled dumpsters. Neon lights from the corner bar flickered soft red and blue against brick walls, painting her silhouette in cheap color. Delia shoved her knee against the dumpster lid, swearing when it refused to budge. The bag slipped from her gloved hands, landing with a dull splat that echoed in the quiet. She was muttering curses under her breath when the sound of footsteps cracked the stillness. Fast, sharp, like someone being hunted. Delia froze. Out of the dark came a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his coat moving like a living shadow behind him. He stopped just feet away, chest rising and falling like he'd run through a war zone. Delia's first instinct wasn't fear, it was awe. Whoever he was too beautiful for this filthy alley. He hadn't seen her yet. He turned toward the mouth of the alley, tense, waiting. A pair of flickering shadows danced beyond the corner, followed by voices. Low, rough, laced with violence. "Honest!" one of them barked like a dog starved for blood. "We know you're here, Calder. Come out like a man." That name landed in Delia's chest like a strike. Calder. Powerful, dangerous, revered. She didn't know why she recognized it, only that it sounded like a name cities whispered behind closed doors. Honest Calder didn't move. Instead, with swift precision, he stripped off his coat, stuffed it into the trash, popped the cuffs on his pristine white shirt, and raked his hands through his perfect hair until he looked like chaos in a suit. The moonlight kissed his profile. Deep brown skin, sharp cheekbones, eyes that carried storms. A mouth parted slightly in breath. A face built for secrets. And he was standing in her alley. Delia could hear the others closing in, boots scraping broken glass. Laughter turned vicious. He still hadn't seen her, but he was about to. She didn't think. There was no time for questions. She stepped from behind the dumpster, grabbed a fistful of his shirt, and yanked him down. Their mouths crashed. His body went rigid, for a breath. Then he kissed her back. One hand slid to the small of her back. The other curled around her jaw, his thumb grazing her cheekbone like he was mapping the shape of her. His lips pressed hard, hungry, as if the kiss itself might save him. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't soft. It tasted like adrenaline and salt, like rain, like danger. Somewhere behind them, the men stopped. Delia heard one spit, heard a muttered curse. Then retreating footsteps. Still kissing him, Delia risked opening her eyes. Honest Calder's lashes were low, lips parted over hers, like he wanted to drink her breath. His body vibrated with restraint. She pulled back first, chest heaving. His eyes met hers, dark and endless. Rain traced a path from his hair to his cheek. He didn't flinch. Delia let go of his shirt, hands trembling. Don't say anything," she whispered. Her voice cracked like a secret breaking free. "Just go." He opened his mouth, but she turned, nearly stumbled over the trash bags, scrambled up the steps and yanked open the old rear door to her building. When she looked back just once, he was still standing there, drenched, staring at her like she was the last real thing in a world built on lies. She slipped inside and closed the door. A splintered thing, not strong, not safe. But it was all she had. Inside, her breath caught. Her fingers hovered to her lips. She could still taste him. Outside in the alley, Honest Calder pressed the back of his hand to his mouth. He could still taste her too, and long after the hunt faded and the night folded around him, he stood there in the cold and rain, shirt open, heart pounding with a new dangerous thought. Whoever she is, she's mine now. Echoes of a stranger. Delia Tempera couldn't sleep. Hours later, she lay in bed, staring at the peeling ceiling of her tiny studio, replaying it, the cold brick against her spine, the scent of his skin under rain, the way his mouth had opened like he'd been starved for something only she could give. She pressed her fingers to her lips again, half expecting they'd still be warm, but all she felt was her pulse, loud as thunder in the hush of her cluttered room. Her phone buzzed where she'd dropped it on the carpet. She snatched it up before it lit the whole place. Mia's name filled the screen, the contact photo just a messy selfie of the two of them during finals week last semester. Delia tiptoed into her narrow kitchenette so her roommate Turner wouldn't wake up. She hit accept before the second buzz. "Delia, girl?" Mia's voice always came with an echo of laughter, even at 3 a.m. Delia leaned her forehead against the cabinet door. "I did something crazy." "Oh, God." Mia's voice sharpened. "What happened? Who do I have to kill? Did Turner clog the shower again?" Delia laughed, but it caught in her throat. "No, not Turner. A man. I mean..." She closed her eyes. "I kissed a stranger, Mia." A pause. "Okay, back up. Like, oh, he cute, let me shoot my shot, kissed him, or I'm going to jail for this, kissed him?" Delia swallowed. He was running. From something. Someone. I don't know. He was in my alley, taking off his jacket like he was trying to hide, and then these other men showed up, yelling his name, Honest Calder. Mia hissed low through her teeth. That name sounds like the wrong side of rich, like old money might eat your bones rich. Delia could hear her own heartbeat. I don't know who he really is, but I couldn't let them find him. So I kissed him. And it worked, Mia. They left. Silence hummed. Then Mia whispered, "So, you kissed a beautiful stranger in a dark alley to save him?" Delia breathed out a single, shaky laugh. "I'm an idiot. You're a hero, or insane, or both. Did he say anything?" Delia shook her head. "No, he just looked at me like I was the only thing he'd ever see. And then I ran. You got his lips, though. That's worth something." Delia stared out the tiny, cracked window over the sink. The city was quiet for once. It made the memory feel louder. "I should sleep," she murmured. "I have class in 4 hours. You better text me when you're alive. And if Honest Calder shows up at your door, run. Or don't. Actually don't. Call me first so I can record it." Delia snorted, ended the call, and sank to the cold kitchen floor. She let her head rest against the cabinet. But sleep never came. Just the ghost of a kiss she'd never forget. Miles away, inside Calder Keep, Honest Calder wasn't sleeping either. He sat alone in the cavernous study, the same one his mother used to haunt, fireplace roaring, reading him fables about kings and monsters. Always in the same breath. Rain tapped at the tall windows behind him. He'd showered, changed, but her touch still clung to him under his collar. Honest leaned back in his chair, watching the security feeds flicker across a hidden wall panel. Dozens of screens. Dozens of streets. Valoris looked small beneath Calder eyes. She wasn't on any of them. "Not yet. Mr. Calder?" A soft knock. Zeke, his operations man, stepped in, silent in black tactical gear. Honest didn't look away. "Run facial match. 24-hour sweep. Every camera from Wren Row to Greywater Wharf. Anything that moves with her face. I want it on my desk before I wake." Zeke hesitated. "Sir, the brothers will want..." "I don't care what they want." Honest's voice stayed calm, but his grip on the chair arms tightened. "Find her." Zeke nodded once, backed out without another word. The door clicked shut. The hidden wall of feeds buzzed like a living thing. Outside, thunder rolled across Valoris like a promise. Honest leaned forward, eyes sharp, the phantom of her lips still burning. She didn't know him, but she would. Calder Keep. The Calder Keep sat on the highest ridge of Ashport Heights, a fortress of old stone, new steel, and secrets wrapped in silk. From the outside, it looked like legacy. Manicured courtyards, wrought iron gates, glass towers rising behind the original mansion like a crown. The city of Valoris lay below, glittering in the valley like a promise, or a threat. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cedar, old books, and money that never had to explain itself. Honest Calder sat at the long marble dining table, watching steam curl off a mug of untouched coffee. He wore a soft gray suit, tie loose at the collar, the perfect youngest son, calm, handsome, unbothered. Across from him, Reese Calder read the morning paper with clinical ease. Eldest brother. Tailored three-piece. Eyes like cold coins. A face carved from quiet threats. Next to him sat Laurel Calder, sister, knife-tongued and deadly with a smile. Her nails were painted blood black. Her jewelry was sharp in both cost and implication. She stirred honey into her tea like she owned the world's last secret. Maybe she did. You look tired, Reese said without looking up. Honest lifted his gaze lazily. Long night. Laurel tilted her head, curls brushing her collarbone. A night with who, baby brother? He didn't flinch. Work. Laurel clicked her tongue, amused. Work that leaves you drenched and disappearing into alleys? Reese folded his paper, steepled his fingers. The Calder crest ring on his hand caught the light. We heard about the chase. Men sniffing at your corner. Should we be concerned? Honest leaned back, casual. Handled. Laurel's smile widened. Too sweet, too sharp. Next time, don't run to alleys like a stray. We don't hide. We make them hide. Reese studied his brother like a locked vault. Then, clean it up. Calder blood doesn't run. It drowns threats in concrete and makes the city forget the body. Honest lifted the mug, but didn't drink. Let the steam warm his lips like a lie. Handled, he repeated. Reese nodded, satisfied. Laurel sipped her tea, watching him over the rim. Calm poison and silk. Outside the keep, Valores kept breathing. Delia pushed through the doors of the law building, hair in a messy bun, backpack pulling at one shoulder. She hadn't slept. Her heartbeat still tripped every time she remembered the alley. The kiss. She pressed her phone deeper into her pocket, Mia's warning still echoing. If Honest Calder comes back, you run. You hear me? She wanted to believe it was just a moment. A kiss. A stranger she'd never see again. She wanted to believe. But as she stepped off the curb, a sleek black car parked across the street flicked its headlights once. Just once. Delia froze. She couldn't see through the tinted windows. But deep in her bones, something whispered. He's already watching. She made herself move, slipped into the crowd of students, buses, and coffee carts. She didn't look back. But she felt it. The city's eyes shifting, the night's promise tightening around her throat. Somewhere behind glass and stone, Honest Calder's voice slid through a speaker to Zeke. Keep her safe. Keep your distance. No one touches her. Not yet. And Valores shivered. The girl next door, Delia Tempora, hadn't planned on being late to class, but the city had other ideas. Her sneakers slapped the rain-damp pavement as she crossed the quad at Branton Law School, dodging clusters of students still half asleep and buried in overpriced coffee. Inside, the lecture hall buzzed with soft chatter, the stale smell of paper and burnt espresso seeping into the carpet. Delia slipped into her seat next to Turner, who raised one perfectly shaped brow without looking up from his tablet. You look like a crime scene, he murmured, tapping through his case notes. Delia shoved her damp hair back. Thanks. Love you too. He side-eyed her, the corner of his mouth twitching. You running from your own murder or just your GPA? Delia snorted, pulling out her battered notebook. Neither, just didn't sleep. Before Turner could press it, and he would, because Turner pressed everything. The professor's droning voice cut through the hum of the room. Delia tried to focus. She really did. But Honest Calder's face drifted behind every word she tried to scribble down. That kiss replayed on a loop she couldn't mute. The taste of rain, his hand on her jaw. The way he looked at her like she was both his salvation and his sin. When the lecture finally ended, Turner hooked his bag over one shoulder, scanning her like he was mapping her DNA. You want to tell me what's eating you alive, or should I assume it's exactly what it looks like? Delia shoved her pen into her pocket. It's nothing. Turner snorted. You're the worst liar I've ever met. And I'm friends with Mia, so that's saying something. Outside, Mia was already waiting, perched on the low brick wall by the law building steps. She grinned when she spotted Delia. Girl, you look like you just kissed a wanted man in a back alley. Oh wait, you did. Turner froze mid-step. What? Delia shot Mia a look that could have set the wall on fire. Subtle. Mia hopped down, wrapping an arm around Delia's shoulders. What? He deserves to know his bestie might be harboring a criminal in her daydreams. Turner turned his full attention to Delia, eyes narrowed. Start talking. Delia sighed, tugging her jacket tighter. She told them. The alley, the men, the name she'd overheard. Honest Calder. The impossible kiss that felt less like a choice and more like fate pulling her off a cliff. When she finished, Turner whistled low. Honest Calder? That's not just rich. That's black card, secret vault, ghosts in the basement rich. Mia's grin slipped into something softer, worry carving shadows under her playful tone. Have you seen him again? Delia shook her head. No, just a car. Parked near the law building this morning. Maybe it's nothing. Or maybe it's him, Turner said deadpan. Watching you, like a creep, or like a prince, depending on your mood. Mia poked Delia's cheek. If he's dangerous, you tell us. If he's beautiful and dangerous, you definitely tell us. Delia laughed, but it sounded brittle in her own ears. It was one kiss. He probably forgot me already. Mia didn't look convinced. Neither did Turner. Yeah, Turner said dryly. Let's just hope he forgets you before your next shift. That night, Delia clocked in at the Millhouse Diner, tying her apron behind her back as the neon sign outside flickered to life. It was almost comforting. The clang of plates, the greasy smell of fried potatoes, the low chatter of late-night regulars who never ask questions. She was wiping down the counter when the bell over the door jingled. A chill skittered up her spine before she even turned. There he was. Honest Calder. In the doorway, tailored coat shedding rainwater onto the diner's cracked tile floor. Handsome enough to look like a lie. He didn't smile. He just watched her. Eyes dark, calm, like he'd been waiting centuries just to stand there and make the whole diner fade into fog. Delia's breath caught. Her rag slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. Honest didn't move. He didn't have to, because in that moment, Delia Tempera knew. This wasn't just a stranger she'd kissed to save. This was the man who'd come to collect. And somewhere behind that stare was a promise. I won't leave without you. The invitation Delia's heart slammed so loud she thought everyone in the millhouse could hear it. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away from Honest Calder standing there in the diner doorway, rain pooling at his polished shoes like the city itself had carried him here just to prove her nightmares, or her fantasies, right. The old man in the last booth looked up from his half-eaten pie, flicked his eyes between Delia and Honest, then grunted and turned away. Even he knew better than to stare at a man like that for long. Honest stepped forward, slow, unhurried, like he owned the cracked linoleum floor, the squeaking bar stools, the flickering neon that spelled out open even when everyone here knew it never really was. Delia's hands were wet where she'd gripped the counter. She forced her voice up from somewhere under her ribs. You shouldn't be here. Honest stopped at the counter, close enough she could see the rain caught in his hair, a single drop rolling down the sharp line of his jaw. He didn't flinch at her tone. If anything, his mouth curved. Not quite a smile, not quite anything she could read. I've been looking for you, he said, voice low enough that the hum of the coffee machine almost swallowed it. Almost. Delia's pulse thudded. Why? Honest leaned in, elbows on the counter, every inch of him too calm, too dangerous. You kissed me, he said simply. Like it was enough to explain the storm outside, the hush in his eyes, the fact that a Calder, was here in this cheap diner at midnight. Delia swallowed, her throat dry. I saved you, that's all. Honest's mouth twitched. That's not all. He glanced at the ring of coffee cups stacked behind her, the faded menu pinned above the grill, then back at her, like nothing else existed. You did something reckless for a stranger, he said. Now I owe you something reckless in return. Delia snorted, pushing off the counter to put an inch more air between them. I don't want anything from you. Doesn't matter, he murmured. You're getting it anyway. She hated the shiver that danced down her spine at his words, hated the heat coiling low in her stomach that told her to listen. Before she could fire back, the bell over the door jingled again. Mia's voice cut through the tension like a blessed blade. "Delia, girl, we're waiting. Turner's car is double parked." Mia stopped dead when she saw Honest, her eyes flicking from him to Delia and back again. Her lips parted like she was about to spit fire, but Delia threw her a warning look. Honest didn't spare Mia a glance. He leaned closer across the counter, his voice silk over steel. "Tomorrow night," he said. "Velvet Court, 8 p.m. Delia frowned. "I'm not—" "You will." He pushed something across the counter, a small black card with no name, just an address embossed in gold foil. His thumb brushed hers when she grabbed it on reflex, just a spark of skin that set her nerves on fire. "Bring your friends," Honest said softly, but the look in his eyes said he didn't care if she brought an army. She was coming, and she'd be coming for him. Then he straightened, nodded once at Mia, who stared like she'd just watched a bomb tick to life, and turned for the door. Delia's voice caught in her throat. "Why me?" Honest paused at the door, rain swirling in the light behind him. "Because," he said without turning, "you didn't run from me that night. You ran for me." The bell jingled again. Then he was gone. Swallowed by the rain, the street, the shadows that seemed to move when he did. Mia pounced the second the door clicked shut. "Oh, hell no," she hissed, smacking Delia's shoulder. "What was that? Who is he? Why does he look like a Bond villain with better cheekbones?" Delia stared at the card in her palm, felt the words sink into her bones. "Velvet Court, 8 p.m. Trouble. Trouble that tasted like that first kiss in a dark alley. Trouble that smelled like rain on skin she shouldn't touch again. Trouble she wasn't sure she could say no to, even if she wanted to. Tasting trouble." Velvet Court didn't have a sign. It didn't need one. Everyone who mattered in Valoris already knew where the door was. A single black panel tucked under an old warehouse arch near the river. No line, no lights, no sound that dared leak out. Inside, the club breathed shadows and money. Soft gold lights dripped like honey from the high ceiling. Velvet curtains coiled around hidden corners where secrets fed on whispered laughter and spilled drinks. And in the center of it all, Honest Calder. He stood at a private table on a raised tier above the main floor. His black shirt was unbuttoned just enough to show the curve of a collarbone. His suit jacket draped over a chair like it didn't matter. Around him drifted the city's silk-wrapped elite, men who called him Calder with reverence and fear, women who laughed too loud just to keep his eyes on them. But Honest wasn't watching them. He was watching the door. Delia Tempera stepped inside and the air shifted. She didn't dress up. She didn't need to. A soft black dress clung to her like an afterthought. Not tight, not flashy. Just enough to show the curve of a waist girls at Branton Law envied in silence. Her hair, usually pinned and tamed for class, fell loose around her shoulders. Wild curls framing a face too soft for this city, too sharp to stay hidden. Even the bouncer at the door blinked twice. Delia didn't sparkle herself up. She didn't have to. Under thrift store coats and half-used lip balm, her beauty hummed like a secret that could ruin anyone who dared look too long. Tonight the secret stepped into the lion's den. Mia trailed behind her, tugging at the hem of her skirt, eyes wide as the gold light swallowed them whole. Turner flanked Delia's other side, scanning everything with the sharp edge of a boy who knew how to look bored and ready for war at the same time. "Holy hell," Mia whispered. "It's like walking into a Bond villain's birthday party." Delia didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on Honest, and his were locked on her. When she reached his table, the hush was electric. People moved for her without knowing why. Maybe they thought she was just another flavor for the Calder appetite. But they stared too long, whispered too softly. Because up close, Delia was the kind of beautiful you didn't just look at. You remembered. Honest stepped forward before she could speak. He slipped his hand under her chin, tilting her face up so the lights kissed the curve of her jaw, the line of her throat. "You didn't run," he murmured. Delia's breath caught. She hated how easy it was to stand there, chin tipped up for him. "I came to tell you this is insane." Honest's eyes flicked over her mouth, then lower. A single glance that stripped her without shame or apology. "You're insane if you think you'll walk away now," he said. Behind them, Mia cleared her throat with the force of a bomb going off. Hi? I exist? Turner too? We're gonna be standing right here, just so you know. Honest didn't blink. He didn't acknowledge Turner's stare or Mia's warning tone. He leaned closer, voice low enough that only Delia could hear it. 1 drink, 1 hour. If you still want to walk, you can. Delia swallowed. She could feel the heat of him, the tension that made her spine curve and her pulse trip. 1 hour, she said. Honest smiled then. Really smiled. It was the kind of smile that said he'd already won, that he'd always win. 1 hour, he echoed. And after that, your rules mean nothing. Turner's voice snapped the spell as Honest guided Delia toward a private alcove. Delia Tempora, if he tries anything, you kick him in the Calder jewels. Delia almost laughed, but she didn't look back. She couldn't. Because she was already drowning in the taste of trouble. And in Honest Calder's world, trouble always tasted like more. 1 drink, 1 lie. Velvet Court's private alcoves were carved from shadow and soft gold. Heavy curtains muffled the bass from the dance floor. A single lamp on the low marble table cast Delia's skin in a glow. Honest couldn't look away from, and didn't try to. He'd poured her a drink himself. Something dark, smoky, expensive enough to burn like secrets. Delia took 1 sip, then pushed it aside. I'm not staying long. Honest just watched her. Sleeves rolled to the elbow. Strong forearms dusted with ink. Shirt collar open again. Tie gone. He looked less like a Calder tonight, and more like the storm Calder blood kept chained. Tell me about you, he said. Delia snorted, crossing her legs under the table, a shift that caught his eyes for half a second. She noticed. Her cheeks flushed. Her pulse jumped. I'm not interesting, she said. Law student, 3 jobs, a mom who calls once a week to remind me how tired she is of being disappointed. Honest tilted his head. You think that's who I see? Delia held his gaze, barely. His eyes weren't just beautiful. They made her feel like he'd already seen her naked. Not her body. Her mind. You shouldn't see me at all, she said. Honest's mouth curved just a little. Too late. He lifted his glass but didn't drink. Just watched her over the rim, like silence was something he owned and let her borrow. Delia's nails tapped the table. What is this, Honest? You don't know me. I'm not one of your pretty little court girls. You're not them. His voice cut the space between them like a knife. That's the point. The club pulsed beyond the curtains. Laughter, music, the rustle of sins wrapped in silk. But in here, there was only this. Him. Her. And the truths neither had said yet. Delia swallowed hard. What do you want from me? Honest leaned forward. His knee brushed hers. His hand lifted. Not to touch her. Not yet. Just to hover. A heat without contact. A promise. I want you to understand one thing, he said. That night in the alley, you didn't save me. You marked me. Delia blinked. Marked you? His fingers ghosted over her pulse point. She gasped. You think I run from enemies? His smile turned cold. No one chases a Calder. That alley? That was me deciding who deserved to see me bleed. And then you. His thumb traced the line of her throat. Slow, hot, devastating. You changed the story. Delia's heart hammered. You're insane, she whispered. He laughed, low dark velvet. Maybe. He dropped his hand and leaned back. The spell broke, but not completely. She still felt him, like a brand on her skin. Tell me a truth, he said suddenly. One truth no one knows but you. Delia should have lied. She didn't. I hate the law, she said. I hate pretending I want to save people who'll never save me back. I hate that I'm good at it. And I hate that I'd burn it all down if I wasn't so scared to disappoint everyone who thinks I'll fix their mess. His eyes didn't blink. He liked that answer. Too much. One lie, he said. Delia's lips parted. The lie slipped out. I'm not attracted to you. Honest laughed again, wicked and quiet. Lie noted. Outside the curtains, Turner and Mia watched the shadows flicker. Mia sipped her whiskey like it might save her. She's gone. Turner didn't blink. No, he said softly. He's gone. She's the only thing he's going to find worth keeping. Nights like this. They left Velvet Court long after the gold lights faded behind them. Delia didn't remember saying yes, but Honest's hand in hers felt more real than the night air when they stepped into the hush of Veloris. He didn't take her home. Didn't take her back to the glass tower with its secrets. Instead, he drove through the city's sleeping veins, past shuttered storefronts and flickering street lamps, the river glowing like a pulse under the bridges. They ended up at an abandoned train yard on the city's edge. Freight cars rusted beneath the moonlight. Old tracks cut through wild grass. The chain-link fence was already open when his car rolled in, engine idling like it had nowhere else to be. Delia stepped out first. The cold bit at her bare arms, but she didn't flinch. She tilted her head back and stared at the sky. Too wide, too quiet. Nothing like the city she knew. Behind her, Honest watched, silent, still, a man carved from shadow and control. "Why here?" she asked when he came up beside her. He didn't touch her, not yet. Just stood close enough that his warmth teased her skin. "This is where my mother used to bring me," he said. "When my father's house got too loud, too cold, she'd park right there." He nodded at a loading dock. "And tell me stories about running away, about burning the keep to the ground." Delia turned to look at him. In the silver light, he looked like a man built from ash and memory. "Why didn't she?" Delia asked. His mouth curved, but it wasn't a smile. "Because she loved him, more than she feared him." Delia's breath misted. "Is that what you want from me? To love you more than I fear you?" He didn't answer. Not with words. He stepped in, close enough that her back hit the cold steel of a freight car. His hands came up, bracing the metal on either side of her head, caging her in without touching her. His mouth hovered. So close. Just heat and breath and the threat of something more. Delia's lips parted. Her body leaned before she could stop it. But he didn't kiss her. He just stood there, the shape of his mouth over hers, the scent of rain and skin and sin. He waited for her to flinch, waited for her to want it more than she could bear. "Tell me to stop," he said, voice low, rough silk. Delia's knees nearly gave out. Her head tipped forward, resting against his chest. Her voice cracked in the hush. "No." He didn't pull her close, didn't claim her mouth. Honest Calder wasn't there to give. He was there to take, but not yet. One hand rose, fingers hooking under her chin. He tilted her face up, thumb pressing under her lip. Delia gasped. Still, he didn't kiss her. He studied her like she was already his, like he'd ruin her before she knew what to beg for. Her thighs clenched, her pulse throbbed in her neck. And then, "Not yet," he murmured. His words brushed her mouth. "When I touch you, Delia Tempora, it won't be to taste." His eyes burned through her. "It'll be to ruin." Her breath hitched. A sound escaped her lips, want and fear, tangled. He let go of her chin. Didn't move, didn't blink, just watched her fall apart against cold steel, every inch of her trembling under the weight of what didn't happen. "You scare me," she whispered. "I know," he said. No apology in his voice, just truth. "And I want you anyway." His mouth curved. Not a smile, a promise. "I'll keep you alive, Delia Tempora," he breathed, still not kissing her. "Even if it kills me." Her breath shuddered again. His thumb dragged gently across her lip. Then he stepped back, disappearing into the dark like he'd never been there at all. The Calder net Delia thought she could study. She thought she could wake up the next morning, wash the weight of Honest Calder off her skin. The heat he never gave her, but somehow left behind anyway, and bury herself in case briefs and caffeine. But he didn't give her space to breathe. He wrapped himself around her world without touching a single hair on her head. It started with flowers, not the kind from gas stations, not even the overpriced curated bundles that Branton law girls love to post on their feeds. These were wild blooms, Blood-red poppies, pale peonies, a single violet that looked like it had been picked under moonlight. No note, no name. Just a slip of paper folded neatly at the base. "Did you dream of me?" Then came the car, a black one. Same model as before. Parked across the street from her apartment one morning while Turner waited for her on the stoop. The driver didn't smile, didn't speak. He held the door open like it was already hers. Inside the back seat, her favorite pastry wrapped in brown paper, a flask of hot coffee, a napkin tucked beneath the cup sleeve with 7 simple words. "You're too beautiful to walk alone." Turner had stared at the window as she slid in. "He's turning you into something you're not," he said. Delia held the coffee tighter, because maybe part of her already was. The nights got worse. She saw him in the corners of her life, at the law library, in the mirror of the bookstore, reflections, glimpses, ghosts. Sometimes she'd feel a shift in the air and whip around, breath caught. Nothing. But her skin would burn like he'd just passed her shoulder. Mia tried to joke about it once while stirring mac and cheese at 2 a.m. "You're smiling at the ceiling again," she said. "He hasn't even—" She dropped her voice to a whisper, glancing toward Turner snoring on the couch. "He hasn't even done it yet, has he?" Delia didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence filled in every word she wouldn't say. Then came the second night. He waited outside her building, not in a car this time. He stood against a lamppost, coat collar turned up, hands in his pockets, like a boy who knew exactly what he was about to steal. "Where?" she asked, arms crossed tight, heart racing harder than she let show. "Anywhere," he said, and the smile that followed wrecked her spine. He didn't take her to another club. He drove her to the South Ridge, an old observatory, long abandoned, hidden behind crumbling stone and rusted gates. Inside, under a cracked glass dome, the night sky spilled over the floor in broken constellations. Delia stepped into the starlight like it belonged to her. She tilted her head back and laughed, a sound too soft, too real. "You break in here often?" "Sometimes," Honest said, lighting a lantern. "Not usually with company." She spun slowly, arms loose at her sides, hair wild, eyes glassy. He watched her like she was the only star that hadn't burned out yet. When she stopped, they were face to face. His hand lifted like it would cup her jaw. Delia tilted up, lips parted, but he only brushed a leaf from her shoulder. His knuckles lingered just long enough to make her legs weaken. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Honest didn't blink. "Because you taste sweeter when you beg." "You're cruel." "Not yet," he murmured. "Cruel is when I finally let you have it, and you realize you'll never survive it." Then he left. No kiss, no touch, no breath shared between mouths that already knew the shape of sin. Just absence. Delia stood under the dome long after he disappeared, one kiss away from everything, and already too far gone to run. The breaking point. Delia tried to forget the observatory, tried to bury it under class schedules and case books, beneath the weight of student loans and microwave dinners. But at night, when the city quieted and the streets stopped watching, she felt him again. Not his hands, his absence, and that absence burned worse than his touch ever could. He didn't text, didn't call. He didn't have to. The world rearranged itself around her. Turner's car wouldn't start one morning, until a stranger in a Calder security jacket appeared, fixed it in under 10 minutes, and disappeared before anyone could say thank you. Mia swore someone was tailing her bus after Delia missed class. A black car, always a little too close. Always gone when she tried to catch the plate. And then there was the library. Delia found it while shelving her old case notes. Wedged inside her battered property law binder. A folded slip of thick cream paper. One sentence, his hand. "Get in the black car." An hour later, she did. It idled outside her building. Same driver. Same tinted windows. Same quiet that wrapped around her like rope. No words were exchanged. They drove far. Beyond the city. Past shuttered streets and into the trees where the real Valori lived. Ancient, quiet, secret. The headlights carved a path through the woods until they reached it, a narrow trail lit by hanging lanterns. The driver got out. opened her door. Delia stepped onto the leaf-covered path, alone. The forest didn't hum. It watched. She moved forward, the crunch of her boots loud in the hush. Her breath came shallow, each exhale fogging the air in front of her. Halfway down the trail, she stopped, looked back. The car was gone. The world was still. She turned forward again and saw him. Honest Calder stood in the clearing. Tall, dark, still, as if the forest had birthed him. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just waited. She stepped to him, slowly, one heartbeat at a time. Closer, until she could smell him, cedar and fire and danger laced in cologne. She didn't know what she was going to say, but he did. "Say it," Honest whispered. His voice curved around her spine like a finger. Delia's lips parted, her throat ached. "I want you to touch me," she said. His eyes darkened, not with lust, with purpose. He didn't kiss her. He didn't smile. He simply moved, one hand grazing her jaw, her throat, her collarbone. Then he turned her around, gently, pressed her back to his chest. One palm flat on her stomach. His breath slid down her neck, teeth grazing the place where her pulse lived. "Look," he said softly. She did. Through the trees, the city glittered far away, tiny, meaningless lights. Her life, her rules, her safety. Behind her, Honest's hand slid higher, his mouth brushing her ear. "Do you know what it does to me?" he whispered. "Watching you walk around pretending you don't feel this?" Delia's hands clenched. Her knees threatened to buckle. "Honest," she gasped. His quiet laugh brushed her skin like smoke. "You taste sweeter when you break," he whispered. And just like that, he stepped away. Gone. Again. Leaving her with the memory of hands that never gave her enough, and eyes that promised the next time would be worse. And she would want it anyway, cracks in the glass. Delia thought the woods would be the worst of it. She thought the cold, the silence, the ache in her thighs from standing still while Honest Calder wrecked her with almost would be enough to satisfy whatever this was. She thought wrong. Monday morning found her at a cafe across from Branton Law, pretending to be present while Turner flipped flashcards and Mia complained about coffee prices. Delia smiled when she was supposed to, nodded at the right debates, flung fries at Turner when he pushed her buttons. But her mind was never there. It was still back in the woods, on the dirt path lined with gold light, in the hush that curled around her skin like silk. At night she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, hand pressed to her chest, thighs clenched under the sheets. No texts, no calls, no word, but the signs were everywhere. Her bookstore paycheck doubled out of nowhere. When she asked, her manager mumbled something about corporate restructuring and wouldn't meet her eyes. Then a scholarship hit her Branton Law account. No application, no essay, just a congratulatory email, and her tuition zeroed out overnight. Delia stared at the screen until her eyes burned. The worst was the coat, left on her stoop one evening. Her size, her favorite shade of deep green, a softness her budget could never touch. No tag, no note, just warmth. She wore it anyway, told Turner she found it on sale. He didn't believe her, but he didn't press, not until the car came back. It waited outside the law library. Black, silent. Same driver, same stare. Delia hesitated. She could have turned back, could have run, but she got in. They didn't speak, they never did. This time he didn't take her to the woods. He took her home. No, the glass house. The one that lived somewhere between fortress and fantasy. Honest was waiting inside. Not in a suit, not in shadow. Just him. Barefoot, in black, sitting by the fire like he'd been waiting centuries for her knock. Delia didn't speak. She didn't need to. He stood when she entered, walked toward her slowly, took the coat from her shoulders, dropped it to the floor. They didn't touch, not yet. He simply looked at her, one long, slow drag of his eyes down her body. Then he turned, walked deeper into the house, and she followed. No questions, no permission, no escape. Just the sound of her footsteps on stone. Just the hum under her skin returning like it had never left. The net tightens. Delia didn't see him for 2 weeks. Not at the diner, not in the city, not in her dreams, which was worse, because she'd gotten used to the way he haunted them. She kept busy, law classes, casework, study groups that bled into midnight, Turner's lectures, Mia's endless commentary, group chats full of memes and deadlines. She should have felt normal. She didn't. Because he was still there, underneath it all. In the way her skin tingled when she walked alone. In the way her eyes flicked toward every black car parked a little too long. In the way her mouth still parted, without thinking, when the night got quiet. The Calder net didn't ask permission. It pulled her in. It started with her bookstore paycheck again, bigger than it should have been, too big. "Corporate funding," her manager muttered again. "You're high performance. Don't worry about it." Next came the scholarship extension, another email, another award that zeroed out her next semester's fees. No application, no explanation. Delia stared at her tuition portal until her screen dimmed. Then came the coat. Not the first one. A new one, a softer one. Cashmere. The kind you saw in windows and never walked into the store to touch. Same note, none at all. Just presence, just him. Then the car came back. Same driver, same silence. Same message waiting in her textbook. Get in the black car. She didn't even hesitate this time. The car didn't take her to the club, or the house, or the woods. It just drove, and when it stopped, it let her out on the sidewalk in front of her apartment. No instructions, no goodbye. Just a quiet gesture that said, "You're not out of this. You never were." She didn't see Honest again until the third week. It was late, past midnight. She was brushing her teeth when the knock came. Soft, deliberate, the kind that didn't belong to a neighbor or a delivery man. She opened the door. He stood there, black coat, collar turned up, eyes the same as always, dangerous and beautiful and full of things she couldn't name. He looked past her shoulder, saw the couch where Turner and Mia were tangled up, snoring under a blanket of textbooks and takeout boxes. He didn't step inside. He didn't need to. She stepped out, let the door fall shut behind her. They didn't speak at first, not until he touched her, fingers brushing a curl behind her ear, thumb grazing the corner of her mouth. "You think staying busy keeps you safe?" he asked. Delia's breath caught. "I'm not yours to keep safe." His mouth twitched. Not a smile. Something sharper. "That's why I like you," he murmured. "I can't wait to see what you do when you stop pretending you don't want it all." And then he was gone again. No kiss, no fire, just that promise in his voice, that gravity in his silence, that certainty that when she broke, it wouldn't be an accident. It would be by design, and he'd be the one holding every shattered piece. The King Moves Delia never skipped class, not for rain, not for sleep, not for the dizzying ache Honest Calder left behind every time he ghosted her into silence. So when the midterm mock trial circled her like blood in the water, she showed up early and stayed late, hair pinned, case law sharp, eyes steady even when her heart wasn't. She ripped through her cross-exam like she was born for it. When the final ruling came, unanimous, Turner shouted so loud they almost got kicked out of the hall. Mia threw her arms around Delia and screamed, "You're a shark!" Delia smiled, but it was quiet. A small, slow curl at the edge of her mouth. "Shots tonight," Mia declared, eyes wild. "Bad karaoke, good tequila, and zero talk of court." Delia let herself nod, just once. One night, they picked a neon dive. Sticky floors, plastic cups, a karaoke machine that sounded like it had survived a war. Mia went first, shouting her way through a breakup anthem while Turner heckled her with cheers. Then Turner and Mia dragged Delia up. She protested, half-hearted. But by the second verse, she was singing loud, laughter bubbling in her chest, hips swaying to a rhythm her body remembered even if her mind didn't. Turner recorded all of it. "For blackmail," he said. Somewhere in the crowd, a man watched her. He didn't sing, didn't drink. He just filmed. Not her song, not her friends. Just Delia, her laughter. The way she closed her eyes when she leaned into Mia's shoulder. Later, Honest Calder would watch it on a dark screen. Alone. And he would smile. Once. After last call, they spilled into the street. The city felt lighter, softer. Turner slung an arm over Delia's shoulders. "Home?" She nodded. "Mia first." Mia yawned, kicked off her heels, and pointed at Turner. "You fall asleep on my couch again. I'm stealing your sneakers." He grinned. "You like my sneakers?" I like messing with your life. They dropped Delia off first. Turner waited at the door while she fumbled with her keys. You good? He asked for the 4th time that week. Delia paused. Yeah, go walk her home before she faceplants into a mailbox. He hesitated, then squeezed her shoulder once before turning away. Delia stepped inside, locked the door, pressed her back to it, and let out the breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She peeled off her coat, headed to the shower. The mirror fogged. Her phone buzzed from the nightstand just as she toweled off. One word, get in, no name, no address. Just that. She didn't pack a bag. She didn't text Turner or Mia. She just moved. By the time she stepped outside, the black car was already there. Waiting, the first night. The city disappeared behind her in pieces. Delia sat in the back seat, wrapped in her coat, heart fluttering like something caged. The car whispered over asphalt and gravel, leaving behind streetlights, storefronts, reason. The windows showed nothing, just her reflection, wide eyes, parted lips, breath misting the glass. But she didn't ask questions. Not tonight. When the tires shifted from pavement to dirt, her fingers curled into her coat sleeves. The woods greeted them again, but this wasn't the path of lanterns or the place of near confessions. This was something else. The car curved up a slope, trees fell away, and then it rose into view. The house, all glass and stone and silence, hidden in the hills like a secret too sacred to name. Firelight flickered behind tall panes, golden and low, like it knew who was coming. The driver got out, opened her door, didn't speak. Delia stepped into the hush. Her boots clicked once on the smooth stone path before she pulled them off. The front door opened before she could knock. Honest stood there, backlit by the hearth, barefoot, shirt open, shadow and flame carved into a man. You brought me here, she said. Her voice came out quieter than she meant. He didn't answer. He just looked at her like she was a puzzle he'd already solved, but loved taking apart anyway. He stepped aside. She walked in. The air smelled of cedar, spice, and him. Inside, everything was quiet. So quiet it felt like breathing too loud might shatter the space. There were books on the shelves, a half-played chessboard on the table, a fire murmuring low. And then him. Behind her again. She felt him before she heard him. His presence slipped around her like silk and command. You're quiet tonight, she said without turning. I've waited long enough. His voice burned into her spine. When he touched her, it wasn't rushed. A fingertip to the back of her neck. A soft push of curls over one shoulder. Delia held her breath. When he kissed her, it wasn't the soft kind. Not sweet. Not forgiving. It was deep, like drowning, like discovery, like confession. Her coat slid to the floor. His hands found her waist, her ribs, her throat. Never pressing, only claiming. They moved through the space without speaking, to the wide couch near the fire. He laid her down like a vow, then paused, eyes tracing her like she was sacred, like he wanted to memorize the way she unraveled. Delia's pulse thundered as he lowered to one knee, hands sliding up her thighs, thumbs under her waistband. He didn't rip anything. He peeled her apart like a secret. And when his mouth finally met her, she cried out once, then bit her wrist. He took her hand and pulled it away. No, he said, his voice heat against her skin. Let me hear you. And she did. Later, when they moved to the floor, to the thick rug in front of the fire, she wrapped around him like breath and hunger. Every thrust, every slide, felt like a sentence he was writing into her skin. She learned how his mouth moved when he cursed her name. He learned what sound she made when he slowed down just to hear her beg. After she curled into him, chest to chest, skin to sweat, hair to heartbeat, she slept like that. While across the city, someone knocked on her apartment door. Turner opened it. A man in black stood on the other side, calm as stone. Miss Tempora won't be home for a few days, he said, slipping an envelope into Turner's hand. She's safe. Don't call. Don't follow. Then he left. Inside the envelope, a hotel key. 2 nights already paid. A suite big enough for secrets and silence. Turner didn't argue. Mia just blinked once, grabbed her bag, and said, We'll wait. Back in the woods, Honest Calder held Delia Tempera like he planned to never let her go. Even in sleep, his hand stayed locked over her hip. Because now she wasn't part of his world. She was his. The second dawn. Delia woke to the scent of cedar and skin. The fire had dimmed. Morning pressed gently through the glass walls, pale and gold. But the world inside stayed still. She was wrapped in warmth, not just the blanket thrown over her hips, but the arm draped across her waist, heavy, possessive. His. Honest lay behind her, chest to her back, his hand spread wide over her stomach like he meant to keep her there. Like if the world reached for her, he'd burn it down. She didn't move, didn't breathe too hard. His breath brushed her neck, steady, measured, awake. He didn't sleep deeply, not even now. "You don't sleep much," she whispered. His voice, low and rasped, slid against her ear. "I sleep when you do." Delia smiled faintly, though her chest ached. "You always watching me?" His lips hovered near her nape. "You dream loud." She laughed once, soft and sleepy. "What did I dream?" He didn't answer. He never gave her everything, just enough to make her want more. His hand drifted lower, from ribs to hips, thumb skimming the faint bruise he'd left when he gripped her too hard in the firelight. When he kissed her, it was slow, claiming. Not the edge of sin kiss from the woods, not the firelit hunger from the couch. This kiss was final, a line crossed, a tether tied. When he moved over her again, she didn't stop him. When he pinned her wrists to the cushions and sank deep enough to steal her breath, she let him take it all. She gave him the sounds he liked, the ones she never made for anyone else. And afterward, when she slipped from beneath him and padded toward the bathroom, he let her go. But his eyes followed. Always, she showered slow, hot water on skin that still tingled. She watched the marks bloom darker, hip, thigh, shoulder, neck. Proof. When she stepped out, a fresh towel waited. Next to it, a tall armoire left half open. Inside, silk, lace, delicate slips and robes in her colors. Soft grays, dusty rose, midnight black. Not a single tag. No price, just his taste. Delia stood barefoot in the hush, heart thudding, towel clutched to her chest. She chose black. The thinnest thing she could find. When she returned to the main room, he was standing by the window. Shirtless, coffee in hand. Fire rekindled behind him. He turned, saw her. His eyes dragged slowly. Ankles, knees, hips, collarbone, mouth. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. That look was the smile. They ate by the fire. Bread, fruit, cheese. She fed herself, but his gaze stayed on her mouth. Watched her lick juice from her thumb. Watched her swallow. When dusk fell again, he didn't speak. He just reached for her. Pulled her to the rug beside the fire. Took her slow. Kissed her slower. Whispered mine against her skin. Held her afterward like he wasn't ready to let her return to a world that didn't know how she looked bare beneath him. Somewhere in the city, Turner and Mia checked into their second night in the hotel suite. 2 beds, room service, no questions. Back in the woods, Delia laid on fur, chest to chest with the man who ruined sleep, and as his hand brushed lazy circles over her thigh, she wondered, would Cotton ever feel good again? Would anyone else? Could anyone else? She already knew the answer. The secret room. It was Saturday night when Honest led her deeper into the house. Delia was still bare beneath the silk, still flushed from the fire in his hands. Her hair was damp again, her thighs still sore, her lips still tasted like him. She thought she'd seen everything in this glass sanctuary. She hadn't. Not until he pressed his palm to a wall panel near the far end of the hallway. The stone shifted, smooth, silent. Behind it, a door. Wood, black, no handle, just a presence. It opened for him. She stepped inside, and the air changed. Warmer, heavier, scented with spice and something darker. The room wasn't wide, but it swallowed her whole. Walls of deep red velvet, low lighting that made every shadow look alive. The sound of her breath seemed louder here, her heartbeat louder still. He didn't speak, didn't guide her. He let her look. To the right, a half wall divided the space. Behind it, hidden things. Secrets. A hush she hadn't earned yet. In front, a table. Blackwood, a tray. 2 glasses, 2 cards. A bottle of something so dark it looked like ink, and 1 carafe of wine. She took a step forward. Read the words printed on the cards beneath the glasses. Love, lust. Her breath caught. She didn't ask what it meant. Not aloud. She didn't have to. He was behind her now. Close enough to feel, not touching. Yet. His breath hit the curve of her neck before his voice did. This room, he murmured, is for choices. Delia's mouth parted. She didn't speak. Couldn't. His fingertip brushed the inside of her wrist. Light. Gentle. A brand. Then he stepped back. Gave her space. Let her decide. She stared at the cards. Her fingers hovered. 1 glass, 1 path. Love sweet, safe. Lust, sharp, dangerous. She picked up the glass beneath lust. Beneath the card, folded small, a slip of paper. 1 word. A word meant to stop everything. A word meant to save her if she ever needed it. She read it once. She swallowed it whole. Promised herself she wouldn't use it. Not here, not with him. Not tonight. She raised the glass to her lips. The first sip bloomed across her tongue. Honey and smoke. Fire and silk. She didn't stop after one. She finished 2/3 of the glass before her hand shook. The effect was immediate. A hum in her blood, a slow melt behind her eyes. It didn't dull her. It sharpened him. He stepped forward again, and she felt it. Felt him inside her bones, inside her thoughts. He tilted her chin with 2 fingers. How do you feel? Delia licked her lips. Her voice trembled. Like you're everywhere. He kissed her jaw. Her knees buckled. Breathe, he whispered. And she did. Ragged, needy. She could hear everything. Her own heartbeat, the sound of silk shifting, the slide of her breath as he lowered her to the bed behind the half wall. He tied her wrists with ribbons that didn't bite. When she trembled, he paused, pressed a glass of water to her lips, helped her drink, then kept going. Not with force, with precision, with power. Tell me, he whispered against her collarbone. What do you want most? Her answer fell out raw. You, more of you, deeper. Do you want me gentle? No, she gasped. Just honest. He smiled at that. Ran a thumb down her thigh. Do you dream about me? Yes, even when I hate you. And when you wake up? I want to do it again. Worse. She told him everything. Things she'd never said aloud. Things she didn't know she knew. Confessions spilled like heat from her throat. He never flinched. He kissed the tears when they came, soft and slow. He stayed inside her until her body shook again, then held her, through the hush, through the silence, until she fell asleep. And even then he stayed, watching, waiting, memorizing every secret, because he would use them all. Later, back to life, Delia didn't wake up. She returned. 1 heartbeat, she was in velvet, silk around her wrists, Honest's breath pressed to her mouth, her body trembling with too much. The next she lay still in a quiet room she didn't recognize. No red walls, no ribbons. Just white sheets. A dim lamp. The scent of firewood and the faintest trace of him in the air. Her body ached in places that meant she'd said yes to everything and asked for more. She sat up slowly, pressed her palm to her forehead. Her hair was damp, her lips swollen, her thighs tender. A bruise bloomed high on her inner thigh. 1 fingerprint, 1 truth. The ring was gone from her finger, but not the weight of it. On the nightstand, a note. His handwriting, slanted, exact. Get dressed, driver's waiting. Your roommates won't worry. Beside the note, folded clothes, simple, soft, dark jeans, a sweater, a cotton bra, underwear in her exact size. She stared at them like they might whisper his voice. They didn't, but her skin still remembered it. She showered again, washed slow, not to forget, to feel. The water hit the bruises and they stung sweet. She dried herself. Dressed. No silk this time, just fabric that didn't remember him, but her body did. The car waited outside. Same black shine, same quiet door. The driver didn't look at her, just opened it. She slid inside, watched the world pass, trees, city lights, the edge of normal life. When the car stopped, her building stood in front of her. Still there. Still small. Turner was on the steps. So was Mia. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Turner took her bag without a word. Mia wrapped an arm around her waist. You good? Turner asked softly. Delia nodded. Yeah. They didn't believe her. But they didn't press. Not yet. Inside, she showered again. Hotter this time, harsher. She scrubbed herself clean. But the scent of him clung. She dressed in her oldest pajamas, curled into bed, opened her law book, read one sentence, forgot it immediately, her thighs pressed together without permission. No message came from him. No update. No more instructions. Just the echo of his voice, the hush of her own pulse. And somewhere, out there, he was waiting. Not watching, waiting. And when he came back, he'd bring every secret she whispered back with him. Because she hadn't just given him her body. She'd given him the map to find her again. And he always would. Pieces of her Monday bled into Tuesday before Delia's mind caught up to her body. The warmth in her skin hadn't faded. Neither had the ache. But she wore normal again. Jeans, boots, the oversized hoodie she always stole from Turner when she needed comfort. She studied, or tried to. The words on the page blurred sometimes, especially when she shifted too hard in her seat and the echo of Honest's grip reawakened in her hips. But she was present. Mia lounged across the couch, scrolling. Turner cooked something loud in the kitchen, humming off-key. Every now and then he'd glance over like he wanted to ask something. He didn't, and Delia was grateful, because the truth? She didn't know how to explain what had happened. Not really. Not when she barely understood it herself. The ribbons, the drink, the way her body had given itself up while her mind whispered every forbidden want out loud. She didn't remember everything. But her skin did. Tuesday turned to Wednesday. She filed her moot court notes, caught up on contracts, argued with a professor who said intent was subjective. She was fine, she had to be. In the quiet moments, though, the memories slipped back in, the hush of that velvet room, the way her thighs had trembled before his voice anchored her again. Thursday night, he reminded her he hadn't forgotten. She was closing her laptop when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Your window's unlocked. Her heart stalled. She turned her head. The latch was loose, just slightly, a crack of air. He wasn't inside, but he could be. She stared at the screen, then typed back. Delia, why? The answer came 10 seconds later. So you don't forget. She didn't sleep well after that. Friday, she walked to campus in drizzle. A black car slid slowly past on the opposite curb. No plates. She didn't look again, but her breath caught, and her thighs pressed tighter together inside her coat. That night, Turner found her on the couch, curled under a blanket she didn't need. You good? He asked, again. She smiled without teeth. I'm good. He studied her, then ruffled her hair. Lie better, Dee. He left after that, probably to meet Mia. They never said what they were. But Delia saw it in the way they lingered around each other. Too close to be platonic, too scared to call it real. She was scared too, but for different reasons. That night, sleep came late, and when it did, she dreamed. Velvet walls, the taste of the drink, his mouth, his voice, beg for it. She woke up with a gasp, sheets tangled, her hand between her thighs, the other pressed to her chest. The room was still dark, but she felt him. Not near. Inside. She didn't cry, didn't panic. She just lay there blinking at the ceiling, lips parted, breath caught. Somewhere in the night, the city breathed. And she breathed with it. Just not as herself. Not anymore. Little reminders. Saturday broke open with cold rain at her window. Sharp, steady, biting. Delia stood in her room staring at the glass, watching droplets race each other down the pane. Her fingers hovered near the latch. She'd started checking it every night. Sometimes she locked it, sometimes she didn't. She never knew which she wanted more. Behind her, the apartment stirred. Turner shuffled out of Mia's room, shirtless, half asleep, a faint scratch on his neck. He poured coffee, sniffed the eggs she burned, left her 2 slices of toast because she looked like she hadn't eaten. Where's Mia? She asked. Turner smirked. Sleeping. At your place? He looked up over his mug. Hers. Delia raised a brow. Turner didn't elaborate. She didn't press. They had a silent agreement about not naming the obvious. She left for the library before noon, buried herself in tort law for 6 hours straight. Surrounded by highlighters and silence, she almost forgot about the bruise on her thigh. the taste of honeyed wine. The key she hadn't used again. Almost. When she stepped outside, dusk had settled. The rain had turned to a fine mist, chilling her collarbones. And there it was. A black car, parked across the street, engine off, windows tinted too dark to see inside. She stopped, watched. The back window rolled down an inch. Only shadow inside. No message, no driver, no instructions, just presence. Delia's breath caught. Her feet twitched like they wanted to cross the street. But she didn't move. She turned away, walked, let the drizzle slip under her coat, chilling her spine while her blood stayed hot. That night, Mia dragged her out for brunch planning. They sat in a booth at a cozy cafe neither of them could afford. Mia ordered too many pastries. Delia picked at toast. "You look different," Mia said suddenly, voice low, curious. Delia blinked. "New hair oil." "Liar." Mia leaned in. "You look like you've been fed." Delia coughed into her coffee. She didn't deny it. Didn't explain either. When they returned to the car, something waited on the passenger seat. A small velvet bag. Mia was too busy checking her phone to notice. Delia slid into the driver's seat with a tight chest. Inside the bag, a small black box. Inside the box, a key. Silver, heavy, no note, no tag. Just the truth of it pressed into her palm. She didn't tell Mia. She didn't tell Turner. That night, she lay in bed and placed the key on the nightstand. Watched it until her eyes blurred. The window stayed cracked. Let the cold slip in. And somewhere, in the hush between midnight and dawn, she swore she heard him breathe. A door meant for her. Monday slid in gray and quiet. Delia moved through her day like someone living underwater. Lectures, notes, cafeteria coffee she barely tasted. The key pressed against her in the bottom of her bag, knocking gently against pens, books. Her breath. It followed her. When she touched it by accident, her pulse skipped. Turner noticed. Of course he did. That evening, he dropped a grocery bag on the table beside her laptop. Leaned close. Smelled faintly like Mia's perfume. "You good?" he asked for the third time that week. Delia nodded, too quick. "You lie so pretty," he said, tousling her hair like a brother who knew too much. When he left, walking Mia home, she closed her laptop. Opened her bag. The key felt warm in her palm, like it had been waiting. Her phone buzzed on the windowsill. One word, come. She didn't hesitate. She dressed fast, black leggings, oversized sweater, boots. Slipped the key in her coat pocket. Outside, the air bit sharp. The black car was already waiting, idling at the curb. A different driver this time. Same hush, no words. She climbed in. Didn't speak. Didn't ask where they were going. Didn't need to. Streetlights blurred past in streaks of gold. The city peeled away. When they stopped, the building in front of her wasn't his glass fortress. It was something older. Brick, narrow, one gold light and a high window. No number on the door. No name. She stepped out. Boots hitting the wet pavement. The air felt heavy. The key pulsed in her pocket. The door was black wood. No handle, no bell. But just to the side, nearly hidden in shadow, a small lock. She slipped the key in. It turned with a quiet click. The door opened on a hush of warm air and clove. Inside, the hallway stretched narrow. Wood floors. Low light. One staircase curling upward into shadows. She climbed slowly, every step a drumbeat behind her ribs. Halfway up, she heard him. Footsteps above. Then his voice, sliding through the air like it had a body of its own. Close the door behind you, Delia. She obeyed, turned the lock. Climbed the last stairs without pausing. At the top, one door. Open. He sat in a wingback chair by the window. City lights spilled around him, painting his frame in fire and dusk. He didn't stand, just watched her. And beside his chair on the table, a small black box. Not the key this time, something else. Waiting. Delia stepped inside. Wondered what she was about to open. Wondered if it was her. The box Delia stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure if she was meant to step further. But Honest already knew she would. He didn't beckon her, didn't smile. Just sat in the low firelight with the patience of a man who'd already decided how the night would end. She crossed the room one step at a time. Slow, barely breathing. When she reached him, he still didn't rise. just picked up the box from the table beside his chair. Black velvet, small enough to disappear in one palm. He turned it once in his hand, not absent-minded, deliberate. "You used the key," he said quietly. Delia nodded. "That means you're ready for what's next." He opened the box. Inside a ring, not gold, not silver. Black metal. Smooth, unpolished, and engraved with letters she couldn't read in the dim light. She blinked, confused. "It's not for your finger," he said, watching her. His voice dropped, darker than the velvet room, more dangerous than the hush of the glass house. "It's for your mind." Still, he slid it onto her middle finger anyway. A placeholder, a promise, a warning. "You wear it when you're mine," he murmured, his thumb brushing over the band. "Take it off when you want to forget." Then he leaned in, just close enough to whisper against her skin. "But don't take it off tonight." Her breath stuttered, her throat burned. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. He stepped back, eyes lingering on the ring like he'd just branded her. Then he moved, slow, predatory, unhurried. She followed him deeper into the room. Not red this time, not silk, just warmth. Wood. A bed she hadn't seen when she entered. White sheets, pillows stacked high, lit like a secret that already knew her shape. He stopped at the foot of the bed, turned to her, reached out, brushed his fingers along her jaw. "You came when I called," he said. "And you'll stay until I say otherwise." She didn't speak. She nodded once, and the ring on her finger gleamed in the low light. Ready, held he didn't rush. Honest Calder never rushed. He dismantled, carefully, completely. He turned her to face him, his knuckles gliding under her chin until her eyes rose to meet his. What she saw there wasn't hunger. It was precision, like he'd already undressed her in his mind 100 times. Memorized how to make her fall apart molecule by molecule. "Take off your sweater," he said, soft but certain. She obeyed. Her hands moved on instinct, sleeves slipping from her arms, fabric falling to the floor. The chill kissed her bare skin. So did his palm, flat and warm against the center of her chest. Not pushing, just resting there, feeling her heartbeat. "You dream about me?" he asked, thumb brushing the space between her breasts. Delia nodded, but that wasn't enough. "Say it, yes." His hand moved higher, hooked under the strap of her bra. She expected him to tug. He didn't. He leaned in, his mouth hovering just above hers. "I dream about you too," he said, "but I'm tired of dreaming." Then he kissed her. Not like before. Not velvet room dark or couch fire hungry. This kiss was anchored, possessive, a claim signed with tongue and teeth. She swayed into him, her spine bowing under the heat of it. He caught her before she could fall, lowered her onto the bed, slow, deliberate. Climbed over her like a man sealing something sacred into stone. His mouth never stopped moving. Neck, collarbone, sternum, the slope between her ribs. Clothing vanished under his hands, lifted, slipped, peeled, not torn, never rushed. He spread her bare against the white sheets, and when he finally looked down at her, he didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Delia didn't close her eyes. She didn't want to miss the way he looked at her. Like she was a ruin he was about to claim. When he entered her, it wasn't sudden. It was slow, measured. A glide that stole her breath. Her back arched. Her fingers clawed the sheets. And he didn't stop. He moved inside her like he had all night, all winter, all the time in the world. "Keep your eyes on me," he breathed, his thumb tracing her jaw. She did, because the ring on her finger wasn't just a promise. It was a tether. He pinned her hand beside her head, fingers laced, the cool metal of the band pressing into her skin as he sank deeper. Every thrust said mine. Every exhale said stay. And when she cried out, his name, a prayer, a curse, he kissed her mouth like he was sealing every sound inside her for safekeeping. When she shattered, he didn't let her go. He followed, held her while she came apart, held her after, held her through the quiet, because Delia Tempora was his now. And Honest Calder? He had no plans to ever let her go. He didn't rush. Honest Calder never rushed. He dismantled, carefully, completely. He turned her to face him, his knuckles gliding under her chin until her eyes rose to meet his. What she saw there wasn't hunger. It was precision, like he'd already undressed her in his mind 100 times. memorized how to make her fall apart molecule by molecule. "Take off your sweater," he said, soft but certain. She obeyed. Her hands moved on instinct, sleeves slipping from her arms, fabric falling to the floor. The chill kissed her bare skin. So did his palm, flat and warm against the center of her chest. Not pushing, just resting there, feeling her heartbeat. "You dream about me?" he asked, thumb brushing the space between her breasts. Delia nodded, but that wasn't enough. "Say it, yes." His hand moved higher, hooked under the strap of her bra. She expected him to tug. He didn't. He leaned in, his mouth hovering just above hers. "I dream about you too," he said, "but I'm tired of dreaming." Then he kissed her. Not like before. Not velvet room dark or couch fire hungry. This kiss was anchored, possessive, a claim signed with tongue and teeth. She swayed into him, her spine bowing under the heat of it. He caught her before she could fall, lowered her onto the bed, slow, deliberate. Climbed over her like a man sealing something sacred into stone. His mouth never stopped moving. Neck, collarbone, sternum, the slope between her ribs. Clothing vanished under his hands, lifted, slipped, peeled, not torn, never rushed. He spread her bare against the white sheets, and when he finally looked down at her, he didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Delia didn't close her eyes. She didn't want to miss the way he looked at her. Like she was a ruin he was about to claim. When he entered her, it wasn't sudden. It was slow, measured. A glide that stole her breath. Her back arched. Her fingers clawed the sheets. And he didn't stop. He moved inside her like he had all night, all winter, all the time in the world. "Keep your eyes on me," he breathed, his thumb tracing her jaw. She did, because the ring on her finger wasn't just a promise. It was a tether. He pinned her hand beside her head, fingers laced, the cool metal of the band pressing into her skin as he sank deeper. Every thrust said mine. Every exhale said stay. And when she cried out, his name, a prayer, a curse, he kissed her mouth like he was sealing every sound inside her for safekeeping. When she shattered, he didn't let her go. He followed. Held her while she came apart. Held her after. Held her through the quiet. Because Delia Tempora was his now. An honest Calder, he had no plans to ever let her go. The stillness after. Delia didn't remember falling asleep, but she remembered the weight of him. The way he pressed her into the mattress, his chest slick with sweat and heat, his mouth still tasting the sound she made when he whispered, "Breathe." She remembered how slow he moved after, how he didn't pull away, didn't rush to leave her alone in her skin again. He stayed inside her like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. And maybe she would have. When she woke, her cheek was pressed against his chest, his arm curled around her ribs like a barrier, a brand. His fingers brushed beneath her breast, lazy, rhythmic. Outside the tall windows, morning hadn't broken yet. City lights blinked in the distance, faint and meaningless. Inside, the world had gone quiet. He was still awake. She could feel it. He didn't sleep deep. Not when she was in the room. "Don't move," he murmured, voice husky from sleep and something older. "You move, I want more." Delia smiled. A small, stunned thing. She should have been tired. Should have felt used. Maybe even ruined. But all she felt was stillness. Heavy, warm. Like her soul had been quieted. "Are you real?" she whispered, lips grazing his chest. He didn't answer with words. He kissed the soft curve behind her ear. A kiss that said yes, and maybe no. Hours later, she stood under the shower. Hot water traced the fingerprints he left on her skin. Each bruise told a story. Where he held her, where he refused to let her go, where she begged him not to. She didn't scrub hard. She didn't want them gone. On the back of the door, a silk robe waited. Pinned beside it, a note. Plain paper, neat hand. "Stay, eat, leave when you're ready." No signature, he didn't need one. She wrapped the robe around herself and padded back into the bedroom. A tray sat on the bedside table. Fruit, bread, coffee made just the way she liked it. She hadn't told him how she took it. Somehow he'd already known. She ate slowly, quietly, watched steam rise from the mug like memory. The black ring was gone from her finger, but its ghost still clung to her skin. Her phone lit up beside the tray. "Turner, you alive? Mia and I still at the hotel. We won't come back till you say." Delia stared at her reflection in the mirror across the room. Her lips looked different, softer, fuller. Her eyes, too. She typed back, "I'm alive, see you tonight." Then she dressed in the clothes he left for her, simple, soft, safe, and stepped out the door. The city swallowed her again, but nothing about her felt returned, because she hadn't been sent back. She'd been released. Temporarily, and honest Calder, he didn't lose things, not what he claimed, not what begged for more. Delia Tempera walked out into a world that hadn't changed, but she had, and deep in her chest she knew. This was just the beginning.